So in this episode, we're going to try and do something a fair bit different to what I normally do. We've got the ute packed up for enough gear and food and everything for the next 5 days. We've got my written permission all good to go, and we're going to go out into a state forest. So I've had a look at the Hunt New South Wales harvest return reports, and I've seen that there's been a deer shot in this particular state forest every month for the last 3 months, which tells me that there obviously must be a few deer in there. So I've actually never been to this forest before. So I'm pretty much going to be going in blind, and if you can't tell, it is actually quite late in the afternoon. So I'm going to have about 2 hours of scouting time this afternoon, and then I pretty much need to be sitting on a half decent spot, preferably for the last 2 hours of light. So that's the plan. So I've got a hard copy map, along with I've looked at the satellite images on Google Maps, and as well as the map provided to me by the Hunt New South Wales app. So I've found probably 2 promising areas that are going to hopefully hold a couple of deer. At this time of the year, I'm kind of concentrating all my time and effort in areas that look like they will be holding a little bit of water, and along with that a little bit of feed too. So yeah, that's the plan. Pretty much find a feeding area, hopefully with a bit of sign, and then I'm going to sit on that for the last couple of hours of daylight, and then we'll go back to camp, and I'll kind of reorientate myself from there and come up for a plan for the morning. So I'll see you guys in the state forest. You. The first bit of deer sign. There's another print here, another one there. He's just walked along this edge here. Another good one there. Looks like a decent sized animal. I don't think that's older than probably a day. More deer sign. There's 2 animals here that have come through together. We had rain 2 days ago, which is why I think these tracks aren't even like a day old. I'd say they could have even been last night. So I just saw this really nice feeder gully, and I've just parked here. I've decided to come out and have a look, and I know there's deer here because I've seen heaps of sign further down here. But look at what I've just stumbled upon. How awesome is that? What a find. I don't care that he's only a little baby. This is the first ever castie I've found. And it looks like it's relatively new. I don't think it's too old. That's awesome. I'm stoked on this. So I've just rocked up at the spot where I'm going to sit and wait. I'm just going to use these pine trees as a bit of cover to get a bit deeper, and I'll find somewhere with a real good vantage point, and then I'll just sit there for the next 2 hours. I've already seen a hare on the way in, and he really didn't care about me at all. I think he was half asleep still. He must have just woken up, but that's a really good sign. I think if there was a lot of hunting pressure in here, he probably would have been very skittish, and he probably wouldn't have been out yet. So it's still 7 PM. So I've still got 2 hours of shootable light. So he was out really early. I'm hoping these deer will do exactly the same thing. We'll see what happens. I've got a crap wind. because there's another mob of roos about 100 metres to my left. So I've just got to put up with the crap wind and still hope that I can pull something off, but I don't really have high hopes this afternoon. I should have got here a bit earlier and beat the kangaroos. Still got another hour and a half of shooting light left, so there's plenty of time for something to happen. So yeah, it's pretty late now. Ended up getting back to camp probably an hour ago. It's a little bit past 10 now, so I actually ended up getting pretty fidgety and walking around a bit, which turned out to be a really bad idea because I ended up putting up 2 groups of hinds. I think the first group had about 5 or 6 deer, and the second group was 3 pretty mature looking hinds. So unfortunately I didn't get the drop on any of those because I just wasn't expecting to see them. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, it's my first day hunting this forest and I'd never hunted it before, so I just wanted to see some deer. So I'm actually really stoked just to be able to see some red deer hinds, even if I didn't end up dropping one. So at least I know I'm in the right area and the right spot, and first light should hopefully bring up something. So we'll give it a crack in the morning. Probably get up at about 5. I think first light is about 5:35 or something. So hopefully we get down there around then and we'll just see if there's anything still feeding. Anyway, I'll see you in the morning. Cheers. So just as I'm setting up my shot here, I'll show you some footage of some really nice stags that I filmed about a week later in the same spot with my cousin when I was teaching him how to hunt deer and what to look for. I figured this footage was too nice not to go in the video, considering that I wasn't able to film these bigger reds just before taking the shot. So I'm not exaggerating at all when I say that the stags that you see here are a fair bit smaller than the big boys that I've got in my crosshairs right now. So anyway, I'm not going to talk too much. I'm just going to roll on this stag footage and you'll see what happens. He's moving pretty quick, eh?
Like he's broadside now.
Yeah, but he's moving.
Behind him, 2 stags.
Is there another one?
Yeah, behind him.
Holy shit.
Wait, there are 3.
Yep.
3 stags.
Yep. They're moving quick, man.
Would they go into the pines?
Yeah, they're going into the pines.
So is this distance too far to actually take a shot?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we can only hope that they actually come close. Or we have to stalk them.
That first one is the biggest, I think.
I don't know anything about like deer herds, but if he's at the front,
Definitely hit. Bachelor group of 3 stags. Big, big, big stags. Big stags. Every single one of them were like 12 point. Big. that's incredible. I'm so pumped on that. Give it another couple of minutes and we'll go have a look. I bloody found him 3 hours after the shot. I've already set him up. Have a look at it. Holy crap. Look at the girth. 14-point red. How crazy is that? I came out here expecting to get a bit of meat. Not a bloody trophy. Not a bloody trophy. This is absolutely ridiculous. Oh my God. Wow. I didn't think I was going to find him. I can't believe the size of him. 14-point State Forest red stag. 3 of them. I think the rest would have been 12 or 14. They're all pretty much exactly the same size. I'm in absolute shock right now. I doubted every little thing I did then. I doubted my ammunition. I doubted myself. I doubted my shot placement. I doubted my tracking ability. I doubted my hunting ability overall. I was looking for this fella 400 or 500 meters in pines down there. My whole world was pretty much imploding. I was prepared to look all day. He's run 60 meters and piled up. So if I've learnt anything from this big, beautiful animal, trust yourself. If you've put the time in at the range, if you've done everything right, trust yourself. This deer for me just means absolutely everything. This is a culmination of so many years just listening, looking, learning. Shout out to my uncle, Pete. He's taught me everything I know about deer hunting. And as far as I'm concerned, Pete, this is your deer, mate. To be able to come into a brand new state forest that I've never even been in before, look at the maps, find an area that looked promising and straight away come up on some really good sign. Last night, I got unlucky and I thought, I'm not going to let that get me down. I was just so happy to even see a deer. I was stoked. I knew the next 5 days I was going to hunt really well and I was going to hunt hard. I got up just before first light. I actually slept in a little bit and I came down to exactly the same patch. And if there weren't any deer here, I was going to go down to a feeding area about 1 kilometre down there and I was going to do exactly the same thing. I'm in absolute wonder looking at this. I just can't believe it. If you've been thinking about hunting state forests and you've just been umming and ahhing about it, get in there and do it. Now, I don't want to talk myself up too much, but I've been in this state forest for 17 hours. If I can do this, anyone can. It just takes a bit of practice. Now, my favourite method of hunting deer is on feeding areas. And why I like that so much is because most of the time I can drive my ute down here and I get 100% meat recovery. My ute's 10 meters down there. I'm gonna get 100% meat recovery. So I think now might be a good time to talk about a couple of things just while I'm getting my knives ready. Some people might think you need all the expensive gear, spend as much money on equipment as you can as possible, and that'll give you results. And I'll say that sometimes it could definitely help. You know, like if you've got a 338 lap that means you can shoot a deer out to 800 meters, good on ya. But you might have noticed for my hunt, I shot this big fella in a flanny. I've got a $380 scope on that rifle. Granted, I did buy that rifle brand new, but it's nothing special either. It's only a Gunsight Scout in 308. I bought it because it's very reliable and durable, and it has a 3-stage safety. And I'm a big safety fanatic. But you really don't need expensive gear. If you want to go out and hunt deer, you can do it in a flanny. At the end of the day, it really just comes down to your ability. Now, I'm also a big fanatic on hunting deer on feeding areas. I think I touched on that a bit earlier. And I'm a big believer in sharing knowledge and information. So if you're new to hunting and you're wondering how I went about hunting these deer on this feeding area, simply all I did yesterday when I rocked up at 3 p.m, I drove around half of the state forest. It's a big bloody state forest. And I drove around half of it. And then when I was cruising around, I saw this massive open plain. And I thought, great, that is amazing. So I got out and I had a look. Now, another YouTuber recently touched on how sometimes ground doesn't actually hold deer sign. Now, what I mean by that is you can have a deer walk over a particular area and there won't be any sign left behind from that animal. So what I was struggling with in this forest is actually finding an area that was holding and retaining the deer sign. As soon as I did that, I found a nice patch of like sandy, not very clay soil, but just a sandy, soft soil, and I was seeing sign pretty thick. So I continued looking through this forest for another hour and a half or so yesterday after finding this patch. And about 1 kilometre down there, I found another similar area as this, which would have been a great feeding opportunity for other deer. So if I had one of my mates here, what I would actually be doing if we were still hunting, one of us would be sitting here and the other one would be sitting in that feeding area about 1 kilometre down the track there. Now, some of you might have noticed that I did my actual hunting on first and last light. That is the prime time to be out looking for animals in feeding areas. As soon as that sun rises up, these deer, especially old big boys like this that know what's going on, will be moving into thick, heavy cover, and hunting them becomes incredibly hard. So the same situation at night. I saw 2 family herds of red deer right on last light last night. And I tell you what, they were bloody lucky I didn't catch up with them before they saw me. So first and last light are your best opportunities to find animals. Now you can stalk and hunt through the thickest stuff in the world if you want to, each to their own. Some blokes really do love doing that. I personally don't like doing it because I spook and I bump a hell of a lot of deer. And I rarely ever get an opportunity at a shot. So I'll do all of my hunting in the first hour and a half of daylight and the last hour and a half of daylight. In the middle of the day, I'll just put my feet up. So if you're interested in hunting feeding areas, look for wide open spaces with thick vegetation around the fringe of it and have a look for signs. If you see fresh sign there, there's a good chance that there's going to be animals that will be hiding in that fringe country around that feeding area. And I can't stress this enough. Do not go walking through that fringe country. That's where the deer are going to be sitting. That's where they're going to be laying up during the day. So if you're planning on hunting that feeding area at first and last light, as soon as you've established that there's fresh sign and there's enough animals there for you to warrant hunting it, get out of there and don't come back until about 2 hours before last light. Or if you're planning on hunting in the morning, you need to get there before first light. Or just on first light, which is what I did this morning when I was running late. Anyway, I'm going to break this guy down now. Got a massive carry out of about 10 metres. Really hope you enjoyed this one because I bloody loved it. I think there's no better place to be than out in the bush. It's awesome to just reset. Be able to leave everything behind, all that stress and everything of work and whatever else you've got going on, and reconnect with nature. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.